All right, so
Enlighten us.
our last segment today is on financials, and that's BJ's going to be presenting that. I don't want to rush BJ because there's actually some really good information in here. But I hope hope we're checking off some boxes. I hope people are learning some things they didn't know, or be able to ask some more questions. But I think BJ's got a decent presentation here to close this out. Now, looking at the clock, 11 after 1. Don't know how much time.
We're not paying attention to it, Joe.
I know, but I don't know how much time we're going to have for goal setting.
I think council will be amenable. We'll find out.
Okay. All right. So we'll give a little bit of financial overview here. Town financials are separated into 9 funds. Under governmental funds, we have the general fund, street fund, economic development, which is where we pay the debt service to the EDA. Our special project fund. Special projects is for our police department, the CDBG grant, West Main, Leech Run Parkway. And then we have our asset forfeitures fund for the money that the police department receives. Enterprise funds are electric, water, sewer, solid waste. Each of the funds must be independent, meaning that revenues from each fund must be used to pay for expenses associated with that particular fund. Electric revenue cannot be used to install new water lines. Increase in real estate taxes cannot be used to purchase a refuse truck. Water plant salaries cannot be expensed to wastewater plant employees, meaning that revenue received by the electric fund has to go to purchase or for projects for the electric fund. Water revenue from the sales of water connections that can be used to install water lines. We can't have the between the departments there.
Can I interject?
Sure.
When you say that, that's true, but we can borrow.
Yep, that's my last line there.
Oh, okay. Sorry, go ahead.
It's okay. So an internal loan from one fund to another fund may be approved by town council in case of surplus funds, but there must be terms approved in which repayment will occur. Another exception to the, and not truly an exception, but the general fund does help support the street fund as well. There's a transfer that goes over that'll be approved. Revenues by fund. This pie graph does show where our money's going based on the fiscal year 19 budgeted revenues. 44% of that is going to the electric fund, mainly for the purchase of power. That is our biggest fund monetary-wise. Water fund, $5.1 million. Sewer fund, $5.8 million. Refuse, $1.1 million. Then the general fund we have in there, $10.9 million roughly. And then streets, the subsidiary there, 2.2. And then the smaller funds, special projects, asset forfeitures there, and economic development.
Back up one time, please.
Yes, sir.
Okay, when I was thinking about this the other night, that general fund supports of all our general projects, but what is not clear in my mind, exactly what makes up that 10 million. Where does that revenue come from, other than property tax? I know of all.
I got another slide here in a second.
Okay,
It'll
you do
kind of
have
break
that.
it down. It'll give the primary. It doesn't go into all the nitty gritty, but it gives the primary funds. Now when you're talking about special projects, we have the special project fund here, and that's where council, and I'll get that here in a minute as well, but that's where the money is allocated for the police department headquarters. It's going to be built. That's where the money is allocated for the CDBG grant. So that's truly our special projects right there.
Going up to that next one up where it says EDA, Economic Development,
Uh-huh.
is that the amount we still owe on those loans? Or
That's the amount that we budgeted for the debt service payments.
how much, can you give me a rough estimate of what we still owe on that?
The
I know we got all that issue, but
I can't at this point. I don't know. I don't even want to speculate.
I'm not at this point.
All right, so the enterprise funds do help support the general fund, just like Joe had alluded to earlier. Enterprise funds receive or give money to the general fund via intra-department budget transfer that's approved during the annual budget. The transfer amounts are calculated using formulas that is found in the adopted budget. Page 72 of the fiscal year 19 budget does show that formula. These amounts are considered payment for various services the general fund provides to the enterprise funds, such as finance department, the utility billing, legal services, fleet maintenance, town manager, human resources, those good things. Primary sources of revenue. So I believe this, Mr. Seelock, this is what you was referring to. So our general fund has real estate taxes, personal property taxes, vehicle license fees, meals tax, sales tax. Those are your general fund revenues. That's not all of them, but those are the primary ones. Enterprise funds, sale of electric, sale of water, sale of sewer, sale of refuse. The enterprise fund, like backing up to just a second ago, also transfer some of those revenues to the general fund through the transfers, the budget transfers that are approved in the budget and the adopted budget. But as far as the general fund goes, only a portion of the real estate tax does go to the general fund. I'll show you that here in a second. Rates approved annually. Town council must approve rates for real estate taxes, personal property taxes, and the personal property tax relief. These are done annually. Tax rates should be advertised at the end of February to allow council to approve the rates in March. The town must provide approved tax rates to the Warren County Commissioner of Revenue's office in April of each year to build assessment books for the town. The assessments are then sent to the town, and the town we process our own bills and mail them out. And we do this to allow our citizens 30 days to pay their tax bills. So we have to have them mailed out by May 6th of each year. The town mails approximately 11,000 personal property tax bills and 5,200 real estate tax bills annually. The code section, when we're adopting the tax rates, refers to 7544C of the town code. Upcoming budget cycle tax rates will need to take into account changes in the assessments, which are performed every 4 years. Municipal code requires that 2.5 cents of the real estate taxes be set aside for major projects. The town's in the town's fiscal year 2019 budget. This is a copy of 7544C, which shows that the half cents being designated to the new police department, and then here at the bottom that the 2 cents, that was when it was 11 cents. The 2 cents would, the sunset clause basically, from 2013 to 2014, 2 cents will be reduced once debt service for the new police department and construction of Leafrun Parkway are paid. This shows the real estate allocation. Total 2018 real estate tax was 1.3 million there. Of that, 66% is going to general fund operations. And then the special projects, you'll see there, police department, we have roughly 18%, 242,500 going to Leafrun Parkway, about 11% of it, 148,700, and the local connector road, $75,000 there. The local connector road is West Main. Now, our the code 7544C says that basically we need to have 2.5 cents going toward these special projects, when in reality we have roughly 4 cents going to the projects, just so you're aware. So we have more than required by code being allocated to these projects.
But not enough to pay.
Correct.
I just want to clarify that, because you're saying it's more going in. Yeah, I just want to clarify, because what you said was we had more than adequate to cover the code.
Well, no, I'm sorry, we have
cover the code.
The code, yes.
But the code does not have enough funds to make.
Yes. Thank you for clarifying that.
Absolutely, because that's going to be coming up in our budget discussions.
Yeah, but based on current assessments, current rate, it's about roughly 4.5 cents that's going to the special projects, and as Mr. Tharp said, it's not going to be enough. Personal property taxes and exonerations. So the town's 2018 personal property tax rate was 64 cents per $100 of assessed value. The town collected $3,795 for 2018 and processed exonerations totaling $78,284.50. The exonerations are processed for property that is sold or junked when citizens move out of town, incorrectly assessed by the Commissioner of Revenue's office. Often exonerations occurred at citizens not notifying DMV or the Commissioner's office in a timely manner. Exonerations may be processed for the last 7 tax years. Personal property tax relief. So the town receives $287,000 annually from the Commonwealth of Virginia for personal property tax relief. That number is based on the 2005 General Assembly. They capped the total cost of personal property tax relief for Virginia at $950 million, which still remains into effect today. So we're receiving $287,000 based on the allocation from 2005. The towns, we've received $287,000 since 2005 for this. Virginia code requires the town to equalize the percentage of tax relief yearly. The town's personal property tax relief rate for 2018 was 60% of the assessed value, up to $20,000 on qualifying vehicles. Vehicles valued, property value up to $1,000 or 100% relieved. Again, that's just for the qualifying vehicles. Qualifying meaning that it's not for business use, it has to be for personal use. Vehicle registration fees. In 2018, we collected roughly $375,000 in vehicle registration fees. The town was also required to reissue all vehicle decals due to the relocation of inspection stickers. Main purpose of the vehicle decal is to allow citizens to use town and county garbage dump sites. The current vehicle registration fee is $25 per vehicle annually, $15 for motorcycles and trailers. Going into the budget a little bit here. So, budget amendments. Periodically, staff will request town council to approve budget amendments. Budget amendments will always have a source of revenue and an expenditure. They have to balance out. Sometimes the revenue source may be incoming money, or it could be possibly fund balance. Annually, town staff will request council to approve budget amendments to carry over encumbered fund, also known as purchase orders from previous years. These are funds that were previously budgeted but were not spent during the previous budget cycles, such as money for major projects like the police department, things like that, or items that were currently being purchased at the end of the year from one fiscal year to the next but were not paid until the following fiscal year. Budget transfers. The town manager and myself, Director of Finance, may approve budget transfers between line items within the same fund, meaning that, for instance, say in January postage is going up, so I'm going to have to transfer a line item for finance. I'll have to put some money, take some money out of one line item and transfer it into the postage to make sure that we have enough money to cover it. As far as intra-fund transfers, only town council can approve those. Transfers between funds usually occurs during the adoption of the annual budget or if we process them in front of them. A little bit on procurement. So the town's procurement manual can be found in all recent budgets. This manual lists out the town's procedures for procurement. Procedures differ mainly based on the value of the item being purchased, in some instances the type. It can be found on page 93 of the fiscal year 19 budget. Staff is responsible for procurement of most items valued less than $25,000. Only town council may approve purchases for greater than $25,000. All purchases of rolling stock, vehicles, and equipment requires approval from council. Staff must request approval from council for some purchases, even if the item to be purchased is already included in the adopted budget. So just because the money is in the budget does not necessarily mean that you've approved that purchase. We will still have to come back to council for the formal approval. Fiscal policies. The town's fiscal Town of Front Royal's fiscal policies can be found in recent adopted budgets. It's on page 83 of the fiscal year 19 budgets. Just briefly, some of the items that are included in there are that we have to have an annual adoption of a balanced budget, the factors that we should use for incurring debt, the town's policy on the 3-month reserve fund balances, independence of the enterprise funds, meaning that they don't support each other or the general fund, and a guideline for special gifts, contributions such as hospitalized employees, retirement, or death. So utility bill basics. Just touch on these a little bit here. So the town's utility bills, the main things they'll consist of is water, sewer, electric, garbage, and pilot, the payment in lieu of taxes. Those are for the payment in lieu of tax being for the accounts in the corridor for those businesses that are out there. Water, the in-town basic water rate is $9.92 for the first 3,000 gallons and then $8.51 per thousand after. So citizens can use from 0 to 3,000 gallons of water, and they'll be billed to $9.92. Once they go over the 3,000 gallons, they're billed at the rate of $8.51 per thousand. Out-of-town rates are double the amount of in-town rates, with the exception of those that have the special agreements such as pilot. There are other rates, rate schedules, but majority of those fall into the rates listed above. That goes talking the pilot agreements, or some industrial users have special agreements with us. Water readings are obtained monthly. Some are read manually. A smaller amount of those readings are by a wand. They have a wand that goes out and we'll get it. We only have maybe a dozen or so of those. And then we're moving to converting everything over to reading by radio waves from a computer inside of a vehicle. Meter reader puts the computer in their vehicle, drives around, and they can get the radio, the meter reading by a radio signal. This is what the radio water meters look like. They can be read even when they're covered with snow. They store readings for a period of approximately 90 days. It's a useful tool when determining causes of high water usage. We actually have the ability to pull data logs off of those water meters. Logs have the ability to show usages in 30-minute intervals. This is what a data log looks like when we pull it. This is in 30-minute hourly intervals. Apologize. Hourly intervals. So it'll actually show us if it was a constant leak, intermittent leak, or if there was backflow on the meter for some odd reason. As you see here in the red, oops, it's not going to work for me.
Top.
There it went. So in the red here is where the leak occurred. The continuous flag, so it was a continual leak. And then you can see here, right around 10 o'clock in the morning, the leak seems to be fixed, and then the blue starts normal usage again. These data logs are invaluable for us sometimes. A lot of times a citizen will have a problem with a toilet flapper driving their water bill up, and we can pull this and show that maybe when they weren't there, or maybe even at night when there shouldn't be any usage, there's water being used. Or sometimes our citizens can look at these and say, well, I was washing clothes then, or such and such was taking a shower. It just helps us narrow down the high water bills. Sewer, in-town rate, basic rate is $16.17 for the first 3,000 gallons, $13.91 thereafter. Again, out-of-town rates are double the amount of in-town rates. Generally, sewer charges are based on water consumption, although there are a few heavy industrial users that have separate water meters at their own expense. The town does have a summer sewer program that allows citizens to water their lawns and gardens without being charged additional sewer. If a citizen has a water leak, the town will issue a credit on the sewer portion of the bill. If documents are provided showing the leak has occurred, have been corrected, and we say that water consumption is returned to a normal level. Sorry. Pool fills may be given credit. What we do is we'll send a meter reader out to obtain a reading. They'll grab the reading, customer fill their pool, we'll send them back out to obtain another reading. Charge for that is $15, and it's kind of weird. We've actually had a couple of them lately in the wintertime. But
Well, they save on the sewer,
um,
because they don't pay sewer when they fill a pool.
yeah, that's what they're getting credited for the sewer portion. I think yeah, there's been some pools that have been filled here recently. Residential electric, $7 for the residential facility charge. Even if no electric is being used but service is on, our citizens or utility account holders are being charged $7 a month for the facility charge. Residential rate, 0.0849 per kilowatt hour currently. Power cost adjustment, PCA, is 0.02323 per kilowatt hour. The PCA power cost adjustment periodically changes based on congestion fees charged to the town. That is a fee that we're passing on to the utility account holders. AMP Ohio charges it to us, so we therefore have to pass it along.
BJ, could you clarify that it is not a windfall for the town, PCA?
It's not a, no, it is not a windfall. It's something that we try to
Something
monitor.
that we're charged that we pass along to the customer.
Yes.
Some people are of the opinion that it's a windfall, that we're getting all this extra monies.
I mean, we are getting extra monies, but because we're incurring the expense for it.
Right, but we're coming in one hand out the other. Joe, you want to elaborate
Yeah,
on
the
that?
PCA obviously stands for Power Cost Adjustment. And the whole thing, the whole premise behind this, it allows the town to adjust to the dynamics of the power world. Because otherwise, the only adjustment we would have is to adjust the rates, which then you have to go through the public hearing, so you're looking at 6 to 8 weeks. So this is the way most utilities do it. They have what they call a power cost adjustment. So when we run into a situation like we've had in a couple winters, where we've had what they call a polar vortex, and we have these very extreme cold temperatures, wholesale power prices go up, congestion charges go up. We need a mechanism to react quickly so we don't go in the hole. That is really where the PCA is designed. It allows you to recover quickly without getting buried in the hole. Currently, right now, we're encountering a lot more congestion charges than we've had in the past. And so what we've had to do at this point is raise our value on our PCA to recover some of the costs that we're losing. And what we're doing right now is we're in the middle of a cost of service study to determine that right now our kilowatt hours is 8.5 cents. We're going to have to raise that and then reduce the PCA so that we can use the PCA for what it truly is, to react to an abnormal situation on the grid.
But it's not a windfall.
No,
that we make any money extras.
Right, and that's the thing that people need to remember is all our enterprise funds are nonprofit. We operate with what our services are. And for our electric utility, we were the lowest utility in the Commonwealth for 4 years running. Unfortunately, Harrisonburg has knocked us out of the top spot, so I think we're second now. We're number 2, but I look for us, once we get done with our cost of service study and we figure out what we need to raise our rates, I still anticipate we're going to be in the bottom 3, which is still really good. Really excellent, good.
But Joe, in that PCA, is that mostly the wheeling charge in order to get the power here?
Right, those are what they call congestion charges, and congestion charges vary. It depends on what's going on with the network, if it's really cold. But you're right, there are 3 components in a power bill. Number 1 is the cost, the 8.5 cents. We can control that. We have done that over the years by getting into generation assets, by buying into coal plants, wind, solar, having multiple contracts. The other is demand. We can control that some as well because we are charged if we demand a certain amount in one point of the day, we're going to get billed for that to be available. The third component, which Gene mentioned, is the congestion charges. We have no control over it. It's part of the transmission network that's federally regulated. But at the end of the day, they are an entity of themselves, and we have to accept what their congestion charges are. Everybody does. And so that's why that PCA allows you to adjust quickly, for you do not get in a hole. Right now, we're in a hole.
So are we saying that within like the past month before this billing cycle, we had several congestion issues or things
Actually,
going
it
on?
started probably 8 months ago.
Yeah.
Okay,
This
because
started-
a lot of people have noticed a spike for this month, myself included.
And the reason that is, it's all based on usage.
Well, yeah.
And so the more you use in a typical month, that PCA is going
This
to
rate
increase.
was actually implemented in October 1st.
Right.
Our new rate was, but you're probably seeing them use, you're more so now because of higher usage.
Okay.
But we're not the only ones that are experiencing the higher PCA. I believe it was Rappahannock Electric. I just received a notification that they raised theirs as well. So it's not something that's unique to us by any means.
Now, they supply electric to us, Joe.
We're connected to their grid, but we do not buy any energy off Rappahannock.
Right, we don't buy anything out of
We're
it.
just, we do pay a facilities charge for the connectivity, but our energy comes through First Energy, which then is connected to Rappahannock, which then feeds to us. So they're just a pass-through. Now for like
I
what
just wanted to clarify that we're not getting a windfall, that we're
Right.
not just putting a few extra dollars on a water or electric bill
No,
to make money to pay for
No.
something.
they're just maintaining.
That also
Yeah.
applies to Dominion Power.
Right, and
Mike, I
that-
think you could probably make a story out of just that.
Yeah, Rappahannock and Dominion Power, they don't call it a PCA, they call it fuel
Yes,
cost
Fuel
adjustment.
cost adjustment.
Same thing, power cost, fuel cost, it's just a variable avenue
Shipping
to
charge.
large. Hmm?
They could call it shipping
Yeah.
charge.
Mhm.
Basically the same thing when you order online, you pay us shipping through UPS or whatever, and, you know, but just want to clarify that for the public, because we're fortunate enough to have Mike here today videoing, and that question comes up a lot.
Recently.
Yes.
Thank y'all for explaining that, because I've been getting a lot of questions about that.
Me too.
But when we allowed the solar, where does that put us on the solar field? That we allow them to build on our land, do we get any perks at all in regards to that, other than during peak time?
Well, actually, that is
Or
producing energy all the time. It's what we call behind the meter. So
Yeah,
that
so-
is feeding 300 homes in the community. So what we're doing is we're receiving a huge benefit from it because number one, we don't have to pay congestion charges. So really, when you look at, like, we sell electricity for 8.5 cents, normally we're buying it all together, everything around seven and a little over 7 cents a kilowatt. When you look at that solar facility, we are probably looking at 5 or 6 cents because you don't have those congestion charges. The only problem is it's only 2.5% of our whole portfolio.
Yeah, but we
so-
are getting a little bit of
Oh,
a
right.
positive
Yes.
But that's
thing out of it.
2.5%.
That's
Better
it.
than none
Right,
that we
right.
had.
Right.
And we don't have to maintain it.
Well, and another thing that we do not publicize much is that as a community and as a municipality in the state of Virginia, we do not have what they call a renewable portfolio standard, which requires you to have a certain amount of your energy by renewables. The town is almost at 15% already with our solar, our wind, and our hydro without any mandate. And we've been able to do that and still be highly competitive in the market. So it's something we don't really publicize much, but we've done really made some great strides in environmental
So when
issues.
you get your electric bill, a lot of people just don't understand it.
And we're still less than Rappahannock, so.
Yes. Oh, yeah, we can have.
You laugh, but when I first came here, that wasn't the case. Because you went over on Duck Street was fed by Allegheny Power, and they were being paid less, they were paying a lot cheaper energy than we were when I first got here. But now that the co-ops have taken that over, it's a whole different business model.
Co-ops make money for their investors.
Oh, no, co-ops are actually still privately owned.
Yeah, well, they're private.
I mean, not privately owned, they're still kind of owned by membership.
But
public.
they're making profit.
Yeah, they have a different,
They're not like the towns where we set our rates. And we keep the lowest costs as we can possibly do it, so.
All right, so the only other thing on the bills for residential as far as it goes is consumer tax, which is mandated by the Commonwealth of Virginia. Maximum amount charged is $3. It's based on the kilowatt hour. A portion of that money goes toward the state, the county, and to the town. It's actually included in our general fund budget. Electric meters, all of them are currently read manually each month. Our meter readers go out, look at the meter, type in the reading into a handheld computer device. Some of the dials are clockwise, some of them are counterclockwise. We do have some digital meters now, read just like a digital clock. The plan is to have automated metering infrastructure, AMI, which is have the ability for our citizens to have real-time usage. They'll be able to go on a website and see real-time usage.
Wow.
Yeah, that's something we're trying to move toward. It's in the future, but we are working toward that.
Is that the same as reading the meter, sitting on the desk without sending out a meter reader like Rappahannock does?
Yes,
Exactly.
exactly. Yeah, we'll be able to hopefully turn electric service on and off with using the computer.
And it would read the same as the electronic water meters, it would keep up?
It'll have a
Small
data.
history. So
there's
when
a-
someone calls, says, there's no way I used this, I wasn't home for 3 weeks, everything was off, the house was cold, and my bill is tripled.
Yeah, there's a data management system that stores everything. Whereas with the water meters, we actually still have to kind of drive by those. I mean, for the most part, within
Yes.
a good, I mean, it'll pick up a good distance, but with this, it all radios back into a central location.
How close are we to this dream?
We are,
How many millions away?
believe it or not, we've had it teed up and ready to go. The problem is I've deferred it until we get our rates straightened out.
Okay.
We are going to be presenting to council probably this spring about adjusting those rates, our base rates, to get our system back in order. What you'll see is the base rates will go up, but that PCA is going to go
PCA go
down.
down.
So really, at the end of the day, it's not going to be a lot of different money. It's just doing it the proper
At the end of the
way.
day, you're still paying for what you use.
Right.
Yes.
The AMI project that we've been looking at is through American Municipal Power, and it's all contract-based by performance. When we're ready, we can have that implemented in 1 year. But the problem is, the reason I've deferred it at this point is because we are below our 3 months reserve, and so therefore I do not want to expend any more capital until we get back on track with the power.
Gotcha. Good information.
Solid waste, residential charge is $14.10 per month for each 96-gallon container, or $12 a month for every 32-gallon container. The town does offer one free on-call pickup per year for large items. Pickups must be scheduled with our Department of Public Works. High utility bills. So, as we was just discussing there a little bit, you're going to receive calls from citizens with high utility bills. Our billing department has an exception report that helps them catch unusual items. We will actually attempt to contact the account holder as soon as possible. Sometimes it's as soon as the meter reader reads the meter. They'll be knocking on the door. Unfortunately, we've come across houses where water will be pouring out of the front door. They'll walk up, yeah, it's bad. They'll knock on the door, of course, turn services off if we see something of that in that case. But we try to contact the citizens as soon as possible before the bill even goes out. Try to rectify what the problem is. Sometimes it's a problem with electric, sometimes it's a problem with water. It all depends. But we ask the citizen first also if there's been anything different, maybe more people living there, doing something different usage-wise, maybe taking more showers, doing more laundry. We will double check the readings. We'll send the meter reader out to verify the reading. Even if it's a radio meter, we'll still send somebody out, just that extra peace of mind. We can test the meters. The town crews will test as required. Electric meter, they'll pull the meter off the house, put another one in place. While they're testing the water meters, we actually have a bench test procedure that can go through on that. High water usage will also pull a data log if the meter is so equipped. We are in the process of converting everything over to radio water meters. Hopefully with this next budget cycle, we'll have enough funding to complete all of the water meters over to radio. So the top reasons for high utility bills, water sewer charges are high because of leaking flapper on the toilet. It's unbelievable how much water a toilet will use. A few people knows this. Probably 9 times out of 10, our citizens don't believe that a flapper on a toilet can use that much water. but it is true. I've seen some astronomical bills because of a flapper on toilet. High electric bills, maybe due to the temperatures being cold, emergency heat turns on, or space heaters are being used in addition to their normal heat. A lot of people think that the space heaters will save them money when in actuality they're working harder and it'll drive the bill up. Electric high due to air conditioner running non-stop when it's hot outside. There may be a possible problem with the air handle or freon levels, or possible problem with the thermostat. Electric's high due to the hot water heater element. If the hot water heater element burns or is not working, it's maybe still using electric, but it's not warming up that water. So it'll drive up the bill as well. I've seen all of these.
Speaking of
cases.
that, and anybody in here, you should replace those elements every 3 to 5 years in your hot water heater.
Yep.
Because within a year or 2 years, it builds up that electromagnet residue on that, and you're getting about 15–20% loss on every one of your heating elements. So it just takes a few minutes to do it. You can do it yourself if you just do it quickly and replace them. And you can buy them up at Rural King or anywhere for about $7–8, and that $7 or $8 will maybe save you $30 a month.
Yeah, I've seen some.
But you
really
should
bad
change
ones.
them every 3 to 5 years.
DJ, I want to give you guys a shout out because y'all stay on top of that.
We try to. I mean, I'm not
Happened to me
saying.
about this time last year.
I've spoke with a few of you.
It happens to council members, mayor, as well as our citizens.
Yes. Yeah.
And
And
we
yeah,
all
I
have-
mean,
we all have toilets in our house.
we do. And
Hopefully.
And you can't always hear it either. You
You're
don't have
exactly
to be able to
right.
hear it. to know it's working.
Food coloring in the back of the toilet.
Food
is-
coloring will let you know short, once a month, once every month.
Yeah. Disconnects for non-payment. Disconnects are part of our job. It's really not something we like doing. We try to work with the citizens, our customers, on payment arrangements as long as they call us before service is disconnected. Once disconnected, we will require at least partial payment to restore services. Payment arrangements must be kept, and we will disconnect service if the payment arrangement is not made. If payment is not made on the agreed upon amount or time, we will bend over backwards trying to work with some of our citizens. Of course, we have our abusers out there, unfortunately, and those make it bad on everyone. But we have to try to treat everyone the same. But if somebody contacts us and says, "I'm not going to be able to make my payment by the due date, I need a couple extra days," we'll extend it out. That's not a problem. We'll do that for anyone. If maybe this month, we can look at their past history this month, they can't pay the entire bill, next month they're going to pay it, we'll make that circumstance as well. I mean, it's kind of based
Look
on
at the
history.
individual, not as a group or as a whole.
No, we can't. I mean, it's hard to. I mean, we have some out there that that do abuse it, but maybe, for instance, we have a few or a handful that maybe had a high water bill because of a leak. Bill was $1,000 or $2,000.
Wow.
Yeah, we'll break that up over a couple of months to try to work with them because we understand. We try to work with them as best we can. For serious medical conditions, there is a form that allows 2 non-consecutive 30-day extensions. The form must be completed and taken to the completed by their doctor, then taken to the health department for certification. The town does not know the reason behind the condition, but once we receive that, we will implement the 30-day extension.
That's mandatory?
I'm sorry?
That's mandatory?
Well, this is, we
If they
adopted
get
this.
that-
I'm sorry?
If they get that form from the doctor.
Yes. Well, I mean, we'll certainly work with payment arrangements with somebody, but in extenuating circumstances, the serious medical condition form is there. This is the procedure that is followed by the SCC. We follow the same procedure as far as the serious medical conditions go. But yeah, as long as we receive that, we receive the form certified by the director of the health department. It doesn't state any sort of reason, just that he deems it necessary.
Is there any way when we get the reports of how much we have to write off, when we get those, is there any way to have M put next to it, LLC next to it, so that we're,
I can create something similar.
You know, I'm thinking, I guess the LLC is our biggest negative non-paying
Yes.
that we need to eventually somewhere down the road, soon, not more than later,
It's on our agenda.
to correct that so that there needs to be somebody that is able to take dollars and hand it to our cashiers instead of just having an LLC that gets by with $10,000 worth of electric.
Yes, the LLCs are one of the bigger.
But we do not have to accept an LLC. We can request a personal name.
It's more of a legal question as far as our
Yeah, we'll get
utility
into that
accounts.
when we do the
There might
work.
be something
Might
We're
get
gonna do
a-
that pretty soon,
Yeah.
though, right?
That's,
Well,
yeah, we can look into it, but yeah, we do have a problem with the LLCs.
Because those folks have a bearing on our rate adjustments that we make when we set rates. Nobody's not paying nothing for nothing. I mean, these are write-offs, but there's a lot of people has a free ride. I mean, they go to LLC 1 month and then the next year they go to another LLC.
And we can't, we know,
And we're eating it and our citizens are, somebody's got to eat this.
yeah, we know it's the same person, but they're under a different LLC,
Yeah,
so
so-
we can't hold one responsible.
So we need
for the other.
to rectify and we need to find a solution, not just look for one, but we need to find it to get us into a less negative cash flow.
Yes, but as far as a report, I can create some sort of report that'll tell us. a
Yeah,
little
that way
bit
we'll
more, you know,
know,
general-
we all want to have somebody that's on, you know, oxygen or whatever.
Yeah.
You know, I wouldn't want any of my relatives cut off, I wouldn't want any kind of council member to have to deal with
Joe,
it.
isn't that bad debt thing on our agenda?
It's coming up, Bill, but I'll be straight up with you. Staff has not been able to work on it yet. We've been really in the
I know,
throes of the
but
budget, but it is on
Yeah.
our agenda for the first
Most
quarter.
I
likely.
just want everybody to know it is on the agenda.
Yeah, most likely after the budget. We're stacked up with
Budget
it right
comes
now.
first.
Stacked up with that a little bit right now. Notification of disconnect. All utility accounts receive a yellow standard bill allowing the account holder a minimum of 20 days to pay. All of our standard bills do state on there any previous balance is due immediately. The day following the due date of the yellow bill, a red/orange bill is mailed out, allowing the account holder an additional 10 days to pay prior to disconnect of service. Between the original bill and with the delinquent notice, the account holder has a total of 30 days to pay before service is disconnected. This allows time for the customers to contact us for payment arrangements or to contact the town if they feel there's a problem with the bill. Like I say, it's just, we try to give our citizens as much time as possible. Once the bills are ready, we're sending them out. We're not holding on to them until that 20th day.
A real eye-opener for me, anyway, when you pass through BJ's area of responsibility, just stand in there one day that they're running bills. I want to give you a visual. These are the ones that are on time. These are the ones that are red and overdue. I asked a dumb question. I asked him, I said, you only got these, what are these red ones over here? Or what are these yellow ones? So it was a real eye-opener for me. So I do know that they bend over backwards to help people. I do ask dumb questions.
And there is a grace period of, BJ, grace period of maybe 10 days.
10 days.
Before you start charging a.
Well, there's a 10% late fee is added the day after the due date, and then there's a penalty, a $10 penalty that's added after 10 days being delinquent.
Okay.
Let's see here. Payment arrangement has not been made after 10 days from the delinquent service notice being sent out. Service is disconnected due to non-payment, and a pink door hanger is hung on the door for the property. Disconnection of utility services for non-payment are rarely done on Fridays or days preceding holidays. Meter tampering. So over there on the left-hand side is a broken electric seal. On the right side here is a meter box. I can't remember, that one might have had screwdrivers put in it, but they kind of jumped it.
Looks like they jumped it from the wrong way. Looks like it went face to face.
Yeah. So, water meter.
I got better sense than that.
Water meter, we have water meter tampering as well. I think tank here on the left, it was a broken, they broke the water line. They were trying to turn it off, turned too hard, or turned it on, turned it too hard, and broke the line inside of it. On top of our meters, you see on the lid there, we have a little label on there stating, you know, it's unlawful to tamper with the meters. Meter tampering fine, the town does assess a $1,000 fine for tampering with meters. In addition to the loss from unbilled services, electric tampering could lead to damage, fire, or even loss of life. Water tampering could cause damage to the town system or other property, and of course, interruption of services to other citizens. Disconnection of service is very personal, very emotional. Disconnection of services to non-payment affects everyone differently. Of course, you know, your family is without electric or water service. Some could be in breach of their rental contract, which leads to eviction. Food in the fridge goes bad. Some pumps stop working during the rain. Those are some of the things that we encounter and try to take into account when we're dealing with the citizens. Tensions get high and sometimes gets taken out on the technician disconnecting service or the tellers at the front line. My technicians have been chased with bats, attacked by dogs, threatened to the point of requiring police escorts for disconnections. My tellers up front are often yelled or cursed at. There's been some instances where supervisors have been threatened with bodily harm. Of course, the police department is quick to help us out in those situations, and we don't hesitate to contact them. But these are few and far between, but these are things we do encounter.
What do we do past the day that they're literally cut off with police escort? Do we?
We get a police escort every time we go there.
I mean, I'm thinking if our employee is put into a situation of bodily harm.
They're few and far between, and usually they don't stay around that long.
Yeah.
The police are very good about working with us in those instances.
I mean, it's the same as somebody getting their car repossessed. You know,
Yeah.
nobody wants their car repossessed.
Exactly. It's
Yeah, they're met with violence, but these are our employees, and I think that you have everything under control.
yeah, we don't hesitate to contact them. The police are very good to work with us and understand where those points are.
Okay.
Recommendation on utility bills. If there's if you get a call from a citizen, first ask if they've contacted the Department of Finance. Sometimes we don't even know there's a problem unless we're contacted. Most definitely reach out to myself or Sharon Pendleton. We can review the account and explain the town's perception of the situation. I would recommend trying to let the Department of Finance contact the citizen, or maybe we contact them together by telephone or in-person meeting. This helps open up the lines of communication. That way, you know, if there's a problem in the future, we can try to work with it on the staffing level. Again, I can't stress this enough. We'll work with anyone to make payment arrangements, and in some cases, maybe to able to break them up over a few months, such as the water leak. Other thing is understand that mistakes do happen. Sometimes meters are read incorrectly, or the estimate could be higher or low. We do estimate meters if there's a large snow. Sorry. If there's a large snow or some unforeseen circumstance, we'll estimate. The water meters are getting less and less estimated, obviously, because we have the radios. We can read them under snow. The electric is sometimes very hard, and sometimes it's on a case-by-case basis. Meter readers are reading electric meters manually, 8,000 meters or 7,000 meters a month. Mistakes do happen. We try to correct them as best we can. We try to catch them before they happen with our exception reports, but we can't always. So just keep that in mind. That's it. Any questions?
Yeah, BJ, either you or Joe, would you explain to the council the equalization of the tax that's coming up in our new budget, that we're gonna have to equalize our tax rate due to the fact that we've had an reassessment of all our real estate?
Sure. So the assessment value seems to have increased for the town. So with that, if we were to leave the tax rate at the rate that we used last year, we would see an increase in revenue. Based on preliminary figures, I think the increase would be about $180,000 if we were not to equalize.
Yeah, but equalization is a law, state law that we have to equalize and then raise it back up. Is that correct?
I'm not
It's
aware of
always
that
been
one.
before.
Are you aware of that one?
What you're referring to is if the revenues increase by more than 1%, we have to.
We have to lower our rates
Oh.
because of the equalization. Like if we get to 187,000, that we take that and then drop the 13.5 down to 8.5 or 9.5, what it is. And then if we want to raise taxes from there, then we have to reapprove whatever that rate would be that we need.
Yeah, we essentially have to approve a new budget.
Right.
Yeah.
So I just want everybody in the council to understand that
Everybody knows the
we're gonna,
Procedure though.
I know I've heard
Just like
people say, oh, we don't have to
But
raise
if you don't-
taxes.
If you don't say anything, you gotta declare that as a tax increase, keep the same rate, or do you have to go back and then come back the other way?
Basically,
down,
if
come up.
it exceeds 1%, 1% of revenues, it's treated as a tax increase, and you have to reapprove a new budget.
Right.
I'm still trying to get it straight in my head. Right now, we're at 13.5 cents.
Right.
Now, if we're gonna experience 4 or 5 cent increase due to the assessment,
Right.
is the process mean that we go back to 8.5 to equalize? That's the process.
Yep.
Then you come back, if you want to make it an actual tax increase, you have to say, we are going to go back to 13.5, which would be the 175, 180,000. So you actually, those are the steps.
Yeah.
And we'll start out with the work session.
Or 1% of the budget?
1%
I
of
think it's
budget.
1% of the budget.
Yeah, we're not at 1% of the budget.
No, we're not.
Well, I thought it was state law. I know it's been even when I was the mayor, when we had that last tax thing.
That was.
You have to do an equalization. If you get 110,000, now you get 187, you gotta drop your rates down to this point that you don't get any more what you had before that year. And then you begin to build from that one up back up to whatever tax rate you're gonna need.
And that one may have been more than 1% of the budget, because that was in 2007, 2008, wasn't it?
I was 7, 8, or 9.
Yeah,
I don't
and
know,
the
but
reassessment.
I thought it was a state law, and I think you need to check that to be sure. Because I
I'll
think
check,
you
but I
gotta
think
do
they
the
allow you to
equalization.
get 1%, essentially up to a 1% windfall. And if it's more than that, it's treated as, you have to.
Tax increase.
Tax increase.
That, I want you to check on that because I think that needs to be checked before we get into the budget.
You got a $50 million
Yeah, no, confused.
budget, 1% would be 50,000. So 50,000 or less, we don't have to do anything, we just keep the rate as is. Since it's 180 or whatever, then that 50,000, we would only have to declare the 130,000 as a tax increase?
Let's do a little bit of research on it.
Yeah,
Let-
you're gonna
let me
need,
do
you're gonna
a
need
little-
research.
I mean, we're gonna be faced with this question.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I can tell you what the statute says, but again, the devil's in the details. I don't know what the case law says, whether you gotta go that
And that
130
won't come
or.
up, BJ, until February, March.
Tax rates will be in March.
Yeah, so we'll be, yeah,
Yeah,
February.
I'll be reviewing a little bit during my revenue forecast here in a couple weeks.
Okay.
I think we need to know long before that.
Yeah, we'll
Well,
certainly
yeah,
work on it this week.
You
But
know,
won't
we have to do it, we gotta do it.
Yeah, we'll,
Yeah, I'll
we'll
look
have
at
plenty
know
of
what's
time.
Find the
going on.
details on that right away.
Anyone else has any more questions for Doug or Joe or BJ?
I got a couple. You gonna do now the ones that request for addition things? I mean, that's
No,
what Joe
that's-
said earlier, that at the end, we're gonna do.
Oh, no, we're gonna talk about it at the end. What are we gonna talk about, Joe? The-
Well, we're running out of time. I thought we tried to do some goal setting,
Yeah,
but
goal
whatever council would like to discuss while we're here as a board, full board.
If everybody wants to stay, you're welcome to stay. If you need to go anywhere, go ahead, but this is something that we get a rare time to do, so. Gene,
I
if
just
you
have
wanna-
two things I wanna
If you
mention.
wanna ask a
and that's
couple
it.
questions or whatever, go ahead.
Well, the first thing is, I think we need to really to look at our streets. Whether, I know that Joe and them's working on it, but our streets are falling apart in some areas of town. Because we're catering to other new projects or projects that thing, and we're letting our streets go to the point that we're gonna have to spend millions and millions to repair them if we don't start accruing money to pave and to do things with our streets. I know we did the slurry seal, and that's helped, but that's only a
Reality
temporary.
is gonna bite us.
That's
It's
only a
gonna bite us
temporary,
hard.
and it's gonna bite us in the butt if we don't soon realize that we gotta maintain our infrastructure that's already pre-existing. The second thing is, I'm sick and tired of driving through this town of seeing violations of snow plow sitting in the middle of the street, that's in front of people's houses, that has nothing attached to them, trailers parked along the street, and that's a law that you cannot park a trailer on the street unless it's attached to a truck that's gonna pull it. And there's 3 or 4 or 5 other things. I think we need to get aggressive in this, and when whoever's in charge of it, whether it's the police or zoning, that we automatically stop and say, okay, you're in violation or whatever, and you have to move this trailer or this snow plow or whatever. There's been a snow plow setting up right past the Robinson's Market now for 2 months.
Longer.
Or longer, and it's been sitting there, not attached to nothing. It's just sitting there in the street waiting for somebody to run into it, and then we're gonna get sued.
Joe?
And
when
I'd
you
like
have a
to
staff
see us
meeting-
start enforcing these things.
Yes. Joe, when you have a staff meeting, could you bring it up to staff? how
I
to handle
will personally address
it?
it.
I mean, we
I'll
people
address
have
it.
called, and, yeah, I'm sure.
I'll
you
address
will. And I do concur with Mr. T-Walk, because there is a snowplow setting up on one street that if you go over maybe a foot, you'll do damage to your car, without a doubt. So,
That's all I got.
trailers and other things like that, I may have a little disagreement, but if snowplow sitting there is like a barrier, so.
Well, if we're not gonna enforce it, then I want it removed.
Well, staff will take care of it.
Well, that's what I mean. If we're not
What's your
gonna
opinion
enforce
about
it
it?
on everybody, not just people that we call in on.
Sure.
If it's not enforced town-wide, I'm ready to take it off the books. Because it's not fair that if you call in because I got one and the neighbor across the street don't have it done, nobody calls in, he's okay with his. If we're gonna enforce one, we need to enforce every one of them in Front Royal.
If we could
Whatever
just,
it is.
if we could reduce the time, once somebody gets a complaint, I think Joe can concur, that they have to go and visit it, take pictures, send a letter, then they have to give them 30 days, and then have to give them extension. So by the time,
But I think if you personally stop and talk to them, they'll move it 9 times out of 10.
9 times out of 10, I believe that's what our zoning enforcement guy does. So. But Joe will take care of that at a staff meeting or with zoning or whatever. He'll take care of it for you. Anybody else?
Me.
Okay.
Since I've had a little bit of time on council, I think everybody knows my position. If we have an ordinance, we honor that ordinance. One of my pet peeves sitting on council is when somebody comes in and asks for a variance for an ordinance. If the ordinance is wrong, then we should change the ordinance. This variance, the one that comes to mind to me all the time, is curb and gutter. Everybody wants to come in and change curb and gutter requirement. And I know, Chris, that's going to upset you a little bit, but that's what I see is we just put in curb and gutter and sidewalk in an old part of this town that somebody decided they didn't need curb and gutter. I've also witnessed in my 2 years where we have a flood somewhere or excess water not directed properly because no curb and gutter. Then the other exception is I happen to witness in my area of town, in my old town section, people got brand new curb and gutter. I paid for mine, but they got brand new because they had misdirection of water flow. That's the one thing that bothers me a whole lot. If an ordinance is good and we've signed off on it, then honor the ordinance. There shouldn't be a variance. If the ordinance is wrong, then change it.
But Bill, I think we are someone that an individual can come to ask for forgiveness or to appeal the process of to appeal the code process. We're demanding that curb and gutter gets put in front of your house, but maybe nobody else on the street has it, So who do you go to appeal to? And that's the town council. They cannot go to the town manager or anybody on staff to say, hey, I don't want the curb and gutter.
But my
because-
point, Mayor, is that somewhere down the line, the town then assumes that responsibility and cost. That's my point.
The instance we're talking about, they're gonna put the curb and gutter in, they just asked for an extension.
I accepted that, I voted for that one. I'm talking about there are some other exceptions that have occurred in my tenure.
And those are exceptions that will always be there. They'll never go away because you cannot have a code that says everybody's gonna put in curb and gutter because somebody may come and say, hey, nobody else has it. And it's their right to come and ask. If you don't like it, you can vote no, but the other 5 council members may vote yes. We may
I understand,
anything,
I'm trying to share with you all my opinion. It's my opinion. That's what I'm trying to share with you, so you understand. I have a principle that I honor. The other one, I joined the council 2 years ago. I told everybody that I think we ought to come to consensus in a work session. You ought to discuss openly and try to reach a consensus so that when we go out into the public and vote, we kind of know that these are the reasonings why we stand with our principles. And once you kind of come to a consensus or vote, we don't need this kind of thing that we're seeing in DC right now, where there is no consensus and you just hit a stalemate. I haven't seen that here. Even if you are on the losing side, at least you understand where everybody is looking at and what their principles are. And because we're going to have some tough decisions coming up this year on budget. I can see that already. I've been saying it for 2 years. So we just need to be prepared as a group to understand some of the reasoning for the decision making that we're doing.
Anybody else?
Mr. Mayor, I would like to request that we have a goal meeting. I know
Well, that's what we're getting
kind of
ready to talk
talking
about
now, but I mean, there's a lot of stuff to go over, and it's always good to find out where council is on what they want to see happen in the coming year, and it also gives Joe and staff.
What's the next meeting we're gonna have that you're gonna request
Go
either
through,
on a
but-
Saturday or?
Well, yeah, my thoughts were thinking in the spring, have a Saturday field trip.
Maybe incorporate it into some goal setting. I know what he's talking about because last year we had the first we had a retreat and all we discussed was the problems that we were facing. And now we're at that point of facing other goals that we have to do and how we're going to pay for them, how we're going to, we just have a lot of questions, a lot of goals. And
My plans for the day were to do some goal setting, being that we had majority of council here, but we had so much other information to go over. You know, we've run short on time, but I don't think we want to rush the goal setting as well.
what were your thinkings of today, just to give us a little bit of insight?
Well, yeah, today is just try to get as much information in front of you for that you can start the new year out properly and just kind of cover those. And I think staff did an excellent job. We covered all the bases. And like I said, I was hoping that we'd have enough time to do goal setting, but I don't think really at this point, you know, we're just starting the new year. You know, it's not
Would you like
critical.
to ask council to come back another day, maybe council, we can put out another day that,
Yeah,
you know, just, we get more done in a setting like this.
what I'd like to do, what I was going to say at the end is if council could let me know what their thoughts are on this program today. Good, bad, indifferent, what you liked, what you didn't like. But also, if you could give me some feedback on that, and maybe in that same context, when you give me that feedback, let me know what your thought is and when you want to get together as a group and do goal setting. Is it be spring? You know, what's your preference? You know, we could, really, I don't see any reason why we couldn't do it at a work session. You know, as long as we
Just
kept
have-
the work session clear of everything
everything
else,
else.
no distractions. I don't see why we couldn't do that on a normal scheduled work session where we're almost hopefully guaranteed to get all attendance. And that's the key.
And I agree with you, but I think we need to get the budget approved and then we talk about projects later on the goal setting. That's my
Well,
opinion.
I don't think we were talking about adding projects. I think we were just talking about.
Well, you see what I mean, because we don't know we don't
But our
know where
goal
we're
is,
at.
first thing is to find out how we're gonna pay for the police.
We don't know where we're at.
That's number one goal.
Right? So
We
I
don't know where
want
we're
to
at.
know where we're at before I start setting new goals for the council or the town or whoever.
I just got a couple on my list, Joe. Roads, definitely. A number of our roads are falling apart in town, and we definitely got to get some money out. Money's allocated towards that.
I agree with you, Gary, just as well as.
Another important thing is I saw in your presentation that you sent the other day, phase 2 of the compensation study. I definitely want to see that finished out.
Can I ask a question about that? Real quick, do you mind?
These two.
Excuse me,
So,
Gene.
I saw that line item on our upcoming work session for Monday. I think it said like 140,000. Now, is that like a blanketed amount that's given to everyone from
No.
top to bottom? Or are we
No.
aiming at our lowest paid employees?
It's certain pay classes. We had a compensation study done. The first year was to bring certain positions up to the minimum required into the pay grade. The second and third phase were to bring those certain positions up to where they need to be. First phase was a little bit more, I'm sorry.
Yeah. Yeah, when the compensation study really only touched about 90-some employees out of the 174, and where we saw the biggest impacts were on the lower class of employees, as well as elevating our minimum living wage, which is
Right.
$11.78, which I think was a big boost for everybody. The first year was a little bit more for the fact of if the dollar amount of your compensation was at a certain value, you got it all that first year. But a majority of them were spread out on a 3-year cycle to at least make sure this is achievable. But yeah,
So that's going to the lower.
that is going to the ones where we've seen a majority of our turnover, as well as where we're turning into a training bed for other communities. Like at one point, we were a training bed when I first came to the town for the police department.
Mhm.
We were training them and they were leaving. But we instituted an MPO program, which is Master Patrol Officer Program, and now it's reversed.
Right,
People want to come to work
Come
for
here.
us.
yeah,
And that's what we want, as long
Right.
as we can afford it.
yeah, okay, great.
Would you like to see a copy?
That was
of
on
it?
my list too.
She's got one up there.
Anybody else? Joe, I'd like to thank you for the hard, well, sorry, Gary, you got another question?
I was just gonna say, I got another one, but I want to talk to Joe.
Okay. Joe, thank you for putting this together. Doug, thank you and BJ for your expertise, your hard work every day you do, the hard work of the council members just for being here on a Saturday. Anything else I can say? Looks good on camera. Mike, have a great day and see everybody Monday.